to say no to the feeders in your family without hurting their feelings and causing a huge family upset. For those of you joining me live today, we are now roaring towards the Easter weekend. And I know that I have a bunch of clients who have all sorts of nerves and dread around potential family situations, big feasts, big buffet style meals. And if that isn't enough, if you have a feeder in the family, whether it's by blood or not, it can be a very challenging situation as you're working to reclaim your own freedom with food, your freedom to choose and to say no when you're full. So today we're going to dive into exactly what to do. I'm really wanting to help you out here because I know how challenging dealing with feeders can be. And the way to deal with them is a little nuanced that we sort of have to go a level deeper each time, depending on the situation. So if you're somebody who has someone in their family, or maybe you have a few people in their family who feel like when you're around them, you just can't say no if they offer you food, because if you do, could be in some way disastrous. Maybe they'll actually name and shame you, or maybe they'll just go into the silent treatment, or they'll be deeply upset and hurt. Because let's be honest, food is a type of love language. We associate food with every family get together, with friendship, with love. I mean, Valentine's Day is the perfect example. And so oftentimes when people are trying to give us food, it's not because they're just, mean and they want us to get fat. It's actually because they love us. And that's maybe one of the few ways in some cases they know how to show it. And I think all of us in this food freedom community can think of at least one person who can be very pushy with trying to push food onto us at times. And when you love them and you care about them, or you care about how they feel and you don't want to hurt them or upset them, then this skill of dealing with food feeders is so great to begin to dial in. Now, let's acknowledge that this weekend or the next time you're struggling with a feeder, it may just be the first time of many that you get to practice what to do with this and how to improve the situation. So let's acknowledge that maybe the first time you flex some of these skills that I'm going to teach you today, it doesn't go so well, and that's okay. But the goal here is for you to begin to practice, to think, well, I'm going to learn from each iteration of this until I become really good at deflecting the feeders around me without even a hesitation, and also making sure they don't see it as a rejection. If you are joining me live for the first time today or watching this replay, welcome. My name's Helen Bennett. I'm a coach who specializes in helping people identify the root cause of what created overeating in the first place, particularly if it feels impulsive or compulsive. And not only do we heal the root cause, what created the problem, but we also then begin the journey of building a truly free, relaxed, easy relationship with food again. And if that feels kind of impossible, well, stay tuned, or better yet, hit subscribe or the notification button so that you will know when I'm going live, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about today or on any day when I go live. And you're welcome to jump into the comments. And as I go along, you are welcome to shoot me all of your burning questions, or drill me, like test me. Maybe there's something you need answers to that I didn't cover, or where you feel like, nah, she's got that wrong. I'd encourage you to jump in the comments with all of that stuff so that I can serve you better with the information I've used to heal my journey with food, with my relationship with food, and that I've learned from the many incredible people that I've worked with along the way as a coach. So this is one of those skills that have had to be workshopped over years through testing them out myself, but also with clients as we sort of figure out how we're going to navigate certain characters in the family. Now, acknowledging that every situation is unique, and this can be a pretty complicated situation, let's just assume that there's somebody in the family who shows love through food. So if you reject the food, in some ways you are saying no to the love. Now that reframe, that way of thinking about things might already give you a sense of where I'm going to take you. So let's assume we're dealing with somebody who, for whatever reason, is showing love through food, and you care about them, or you certainly care about the reaction, and you don't want them to think that you don't like them, or you don't care about them, or that you are rejecting them in any way by saying no. And so let's dive in, because I'm going to give you sort of 4 levels to work with this. And you're going to use one of them, and it's going to work like gangbusters. All right. So first things first, if you have a feeder who's offering you more than you need. So now, when we do food freedom, we're always talking about feeding our hunger. We want to feed our real needs. And if hunger is where you're at and your tummy actually really does want to eat today and it wants to eat that thing, then por favor, accept the gift of love, which comes in the form of food, if that's what your tummy is asking for, because that's the most appropriate thing to do. So, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched any of my stuff before, when we restrictively eat or we go on diets, we are asking for trouble by denying ourselves the thing that our body actually needs, which is food. But for the purposes of today's conversation, we're going to assume that your tummy is no longer hungry, that you're really satisfied. You've been practicing your tummy check-ins. If you don't know what those are, check the masterclass in the description. There's a full training on how to start listening for hunger and fullness. And let's assume that you've dialed that in and you're sitting here nice and comfortable, maybe even a bit full at this point. And there's a feeder trying to push something on you as a gift of love. Now, you've watched this video, so you're starting to think, they're not trying to be mean. She's not trying to hurt me. She's not trying to sabotage me. Maybe she legitimately is just trying to show love and care for food. And the preparation of the food alone might have been a gift of love and care for that person. Now, I say she, because oftentimes in the family, mum tends to be the feeder, but of course, by no means is that always the case. It could be anybody. But I'll just use the mum idea because it's a good one. So now you've had a great meal, you're comfortable, or you might even be overfull or full or overfull at this point. You dialed into those cues, you know where you're at. You legitimately are not really interested in having anything further to eat. And the feeders come in there with some bit of food, offering, pushing some food on you. First thing to do is a simple thank you and no. Just no thanks. Boom. The full stop at the end there. Because when we go into reasoning and justifications, it can sound a bit like we're trying to make excuses. And, us human beings are dialed in, our little spidey sense is hearing one thing, but the spidey sense is picking up something else. So if we're trying to make excuses about why we don't want to eat, the person who's hearing those excuses will probably think BS deep down, right? And if they don't think it consciously, they're feeling something's off. So the work that we're going to do next, if they don't accept a simple thank you without any justifications, not thank you, no, because blah, 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 bollocks. Let's get as close to the truth as humanly possible. So if they don't accept the thank you, the no thanks, and they're still pushing, oh, come on, just a little bit more, forget the diet or whatever. I mean, we've heard everything, right? If you've been subject to feeders, you know the incredible amount of avenues they can go to try and get you to eat for whatever reason. It's your favorite. I slaved away all day. How can you say no? I mean, the list goes on. Right now, I need you to just hold your ground, check in with that tummy. You are full. Now, that is your truth right now. And your tummy definitely doesn't want another piece of lemon meringue pie, as lovely as it would be. And I'm sure you could force it down here. At this point, you're really doing the work. You want to protect and create boundaries around your relationship with food and your journey. So they're pushing, they're still going. So what is your truth? Well, the truth is that you're not hungry anymore. The truth is that you're full. So you can come back and say that. Oh, Auntie Carol, thank you so much for that offer. Looks amazing. I'm full. So I won't, thanks so much. Now, you do all of this with a big fat smile on your face, because remember, and hopefully it's true and authentic, remember, not only have you given her your truth or him your truth, but you are showing them with the warmth in your voice and the smile on your face that you are in no way rejecting them. You are showing them a kind of loving energy. And in fact, you can go even so far as to say, I absolutely love you for offering. I love that you care about me so much, and I love that you're offering, and I love that you work so hard, and I love that you've made this incredible meal. And I can't tell you how much it means to me that you did that. And I wish I was hungrier right now, because that's probably true. Because if you were, it'd be easy to accept that gift. You stick to your truth as much as you can. Sure, we can elaborate it a little bit. We can really sell it, because we really want them to understand we are not rejecting the food. We're rejecting the food. We're not rejecting their love. It's just really, we just keep encoding this. I'm rejecting the food. I'm not rejecting the love. And so keep allowing the love to go back to them. Accept their gift of love, but just keep saying no as gently as you can to the food. Right, now let's say that feed is still going, still coming at you. Oh my God, we're going level 3 now. all the things are coming out of that mouth, then what is your next option? Well, this is one that I've done multiple times, and I know plenty of clients who've done this, and it might be the best one because you at this point your no has come out a couple of times. They're just not listening. They're just not hearing it, and they're really insistent. Now, we don't want you to force yourself to eat at this stage. At this stage, what we're going to do is say, accept the gift. You don't need to eat it now. So the way that I would do that is say, you know what, Auntie Cal, this lemon meringue pie looks so incredible. I've already had a piece. It was like a slice or whatever. It was amazing. And to be honest with you, I just don't have space at the moment. Would it be possible for me to take a little bit home with me or have some later? I'd prefer to say take home, because if later, then they're just going to come back later. You have to go through this whole thing again, right? So really check in to hear what's going on inside you. If you do feel like actually you might love a slice in an hour or two, then by all means say that, right? So now you've accepted the gift. You've just still kept that boundary around the fact that you're not about to force feed yourself. We can dig a little deeper. We can flesh this out by saying, I'm absolutely stuffed. That might be a little bit flowery for what you're actually feeling at that time, but let's roll with it. Nobody's going to try and force feed us if we say that we're stuffed. I'm absolutely stuffed right now. It looks incredible. I adore you for offering it to me. Would it be okay, do you think, if I could take a piece of that absolutely delicious XYZ home with me? And I know this is going to sound crazy, but I would love to have some for dinner tonight, or I'd love some tomorrow. Would that be okay with you? Now, if they're a feeder coming from a place of love, they will be delighted that you have loved this gift so much that you actually want to take some away with you. Now, what you do with it next is totally up to you. I've had people who've accepted the gift with warmth because really they're accepting the love. But actually they weren't really that keen on the food, let's say, in which case they might have given it away to somebody later. Or if you're good at this, and not many overeaters are, they might have felt comfortable enough to throw it away, because it was never about the food. It's about accepting the gift of the love. Now, if that just filled a few of you with the heebie-jeebies at the thought of throwing food away, well, that's a conversation for another live, right? And I hear you. If you have been brought up in the clean plate club where you had to finish everything on your plate and throwing food away was wasteful, you will get the absolute thrills. You will feel your body giving the heebie-jeebies at the thought of throwing food away. But this is another skill that one can become very good at on this journey, because remember, the core to this is to protect you now. We spend a lifetime people pleasing, saying yes when we meant no. And this is one of those times on this journey when you are trying to build something for you. You're invested in your health, your happiness, your well-being. And it never requires that you force yourself to overeat at the behest of someone else, right? So we want to minimize that ever happening. And by accepting the gift and taking it home, you've accepted the love. And then what you do with that food is up to you. Freeze it, put it away. If you're feeling comfortable having it around, then, just keep it for tomorrow. If you're not feeling comfortable yet, because you haven't yet built the skills to be around all of those previous trigger foods without them meaning anything, maybe you even forget they're there. If you're not there yet, then you can absolutely give it away to somebody else, throw it away, or do whatever you have to do, freeze it, in order to ensure that you feel nice and safe when you're back at home. God, there's like 10 topics coming out of this one live. I'm like, oh, we've got to do a live about that. But you can see healing our relationship with food is sort of complicated business until it isn't. Because ultimately, what are we saying here? We're saying check in with what is true for you. And if you're truly hungry and that is what you want, you're going to eat that. You're going to welcome that in. And if you're not, we're going to help you build the skills to say no. And sometimes that's just saying no on your own to something that previously you would have just kept going on. And sometimes it's saying no to somebody that you care about and risk hurting them. And we want to minimize the risk of the hurt. So this constant coming back to accepting the love and not the food is really important. So in this case, level 3, you've actually accepted the food. You're just going to eat it later, or you're going to give it away, and they never have to know. They never have to know, because ultimately you want to maintain the relationship. All right. And then the last one, and this is kind of an interesting one because I wasn't sure whether to include this in the live. it's really important as we do the work of food freedom that we are cultivating the ability to choose. We are cultivating choice. What is true freedom? It's the freedom to choose our thoughts and our actions. And I don't say our emotional responses because oftentimes those are very automatic, but we can get very good at navigating those emotional reactions in a way that truly serves us. But our thoughts and our actions are things that over time we learn that we can choose them. And the last one is about choosing to say yes to the food and to eat it then. And remember, it must be a choice, not something that we feel we were strong armed into, not something that we feel we had no choice around and that we were compelled to do or else, but one where in that instance, we choose the food and we choose the consequences of the food, maybe the discomfort that we have later, the bloating, whatever it is, because in that moment, the choice of the food was valuable to us. So let me give you an example. I worked with a wonderful client years ago who invited me over to a lunch. This was not when I was working in the food freedom space. We were working on something else. And he knew that I had been a chef on super yachts. And so he very sweetly was in town and he wanted to catch up. And he said, come on over. I'm going to cook you a meal. It was the middle of summer, absolutely boiling hot. And I was thrilled. I was so excited because I was so used to cooking for everybody else. And it was just so lovely to have that, gift of somebody cooking for me. So anyway, middle of summer, absolutely bloody boiling hot. And I walk over to his place. We have a nice chitty chat. I'm so excited for lunch. I've got it in my mind. It was going to be this kind of light tapasy style, like foods. And he'd been working all day on it. And as it happens, what he'd made was a beautiful, but very filling and very heavy pasta dish. Now, I love pasta. I have nothing against pasta. But on a sort of 45-degree day, it was, I could feel, let's put it this way. I knew enough about tummy checkings at that time to know that every part of my tummy did not want the pasta, or certainly not very much of it at that point. It was going to be heavy, rich, hot, and everything I didn't at all want in my body at that time. I took a moment to check in with myself to see what am I going to do with this. And I realized that with a completely open heart, I was going to eat the pasta. And yes, I absolutely probably could have said, I'll just have a little bit, I'll just have a light bit. But when I saw the smile on his face and the work that he'd put into the meal, I chose to say yes and to just enjoy it as much as I could. And to be honest, I remember so clearly, I didn't have seconds. I said no to seconds because at that point I was really full. But I really savored and enjoyed the meal because I knew he'd put so much effort in him, and it was his way of showing me a deep sense of care. And while I had the skills to say no and to turn it down or just have a little bit, of course I could have done that. I chose to go for the full plate of food. And I walked home that afternoon and I was very full. And I remember so clearly in my mind thinking to myself, I would do it again in a heartbeat. I will accept all the discomfort of this meal. And trust me, I was uncomfortable for a few hours after that. Because you know what? That discomfort was temporary. But to be able to enjoy that meal with him and to really appreciate it and to see the light and the smile that he got out of making it for me and for me to consume it was truly delightful. And so every now and again in this journey, you can choose to accept the gift. You can choose to have a bit more. And yes, we're doing it for them, but it is still a choice. Now, I hope that I've given you some tools today where for the most part, you'll easily be able to say no. I mean, yes, I could go back in time and redo that whole conversation, but I still wouldn't choose it any differently. If only you could have seen the delight in his eyes as he had gone to all this effort of making a meal for me after, knowing that I'd been somebody who'd made meals for other people. It was so important to me that day to do it. And it's really important that at any time on this journey that you are empowered with the ability to choose. And I chose that pasta and I chose all the discomfort that came after it. And it was mighty uncomfortable for a while, but I tell you what, it was worth every minute. So every now and again, you might recognize that it's better to make that choice. And again, it'll be your choice, not theirs. Right. So wrapping that up, a couple of extra important things to say here. When we do this work, particularly as we go back into family environments where so much of the overeating might have manifested, not even might have, like 99% chance of it happened there. Family dynamics, the way food was used in the family, the way it was restricted in the family, all of that stuff, the shaming around eating, all of it. It's going to start coming up for you as you go back into your family environments. And as you do this work, you'll start to see, oh my goodness, no wonder I became what I became. No wonder I started to do what I do with food. And then you might experience a huge amount of anger, if not rage, as you witness all the things that led you as a little boy or girl to create this relationship with food that has caused so much pain for you. Now, again, totally different conversation about where we're laying blame here, but really, really, it is true that every one of us is a product in many ways of our environment, and you have come to overeat in many ways as a result of the environment that you grew up in. Now, that's nuanced, and there's all sorts of different reasons for that, but ultimately, oftentimes, we find blame or understanding lying in the family dynamics that we grew up in and the role that food came to play. So as you go back into that world and you start to see the very things that we're talking about, you see the things that we're working on, it would be completely understandable if you start to feel anger and rage, particularly if you're dealing with a feeder. And particularly if that feeder is also the person who used to shame weight gain. That's often the case. The feeder can often be the person who shamed weight gain, either on themselves or on you. And if you're starting to feel real rage around this, you kind of might even feel like, how dare you push this food on me? Now that you can see it, with clarity, it can be really overwhelming to experience those feelings. And all I want to say for you is, I hope that you have a wonderful meal with your loved ones. Ultimately, times like Easter and Christmas and birthdays, they're these beautiful moments in time that we never get back, where we get to cultivate and improve and really savor our relationships. And it's absolutely appropriate occasionally to have blowouts and to have, big uncomfortable conversations with our loved ones. And if that's what you choose to do, this weekend or any other, that's perfectly cool and fine, and that's understandable. But if you just want to have a good weekend and you don't want it to blow up, we also don't want you to deny that feeling of anger or rage that you might be experiencing as you witness all this feeding and you witness all the dynamics with food in your family. I would make sure that you take time to give voice to that feeling. Now, that might mean after the meal, you've done all your deflection, the feeder's happy, you're happy, everybody feels loved, the food's wherever it is. Hopefully it's in a, back in the fridge, but maybe it's in a takeaway, container, and you're going to take some home later. But wherever that is, and whatever you've done with it, it's really important that the anger that you might be feeling that's coming up for you, the sadness, the grief around the childhood that wasn't what you needed it to be, as that begins to come up for you, see if you can find a way to release it. Talk to somebody about it. Speak about it with your therapist, with your coach, with your friend, with your partner. Not in a way that you're looking for them to give you solutions, but just to say, I've realized today X, Y, Z, and it made me angry, and I felt so sad, or I felt enraged, and I just want to share this with you so I can get it out of my system. It's really important that we acknowledge that anger or that sadness, because it's valid. And you'll start to see more and more of it. And it can be quite hard initially in this work to not allow an experience like a feeder pushing food on you to turn into rage and shut down. I mean, in the early days, there can be times where you might be just like, just stop, because of course you would, because now you're starting to see what you were up against, So your feelings are valid. And find a way to have them express themselves. I don't even mind if you leave a podcast length voice note. I don't know if you can in the comments. You can't, but if you want to, write an essay in the comments about your experience after this, if that's a useful way for you to get it out, do it. There is power in releasing the story. Remember, it's not releasing it so that you can go around and around and around and spin in the loop of it and sit in the toxicity of it. It's releasing it to validate it and get it out of your system so you can move on and do the work of healing. And yes, uncomfortable conversations must be had in some cases with your loved ones. And yes, sometimes saying, it's really hard for me when you push food on me because XYZ, we can get into how to do that. But ultimately, for the purposes of today, I want to empower you to have skills to accept the love without accepting the food. If you are not hungry, you do not need to eat it, and you never, never, ever need to eat it again. Unless somebody has a gun to your head, and even then people would argue that you still have a choice. But unless somebody has a gun to your head, you do not need to eat that food. And the last thing I want to say on that is, if you've done all of this work, you've really tried to show them that you're not rejecting their love and their care, and they still are upset, they're hurt, maybe they give you the silent treatment or whatever the case may be, let them. Let them. If you've done everything you can to show them you love them, and that not wanting to eat what they've made is not a sign that you don't care and you don't love them, and they can't hear that, just let them be with their reaction. One of the hardest things to do is to let people have a negative response when our intention was so warm and loving, not only to ourselves, but to them as well. It can be really difficult when you've done everything in your power to protect yourself and to protect them from pain, and it doesn't work out. Sometimes when we put down boundaries, other people get hurt. And that's one of the hardest things, especially if you're a people pleaser, to really begin to accept. And it's really hard not to experience the feeling of that. Maybe you feel guilt or sadness and not to eat that feeling. So let's accept that sometimes when we put down boundaries around us, when we protect ourselves, when we prioritize our health, our happiness, our well-being, that it comes at the expense of others, and that other people might be disappointed or hurt. At the very least, they will not be used to that if we're used to just saying yes to everything. And so they're not going to get that dopamine fix today because we're not going to take the food today, But hopefully, if you've done it this way and constantly coming back to love and remembering that's what they're trying to share with you, after the meal, make sure you give that person a huge hug, give them a big kiss, thank them, tell them how much you love them. Trust me, if they felt a little bit of funniness about the fact that you didn't eat that last piece of lemon meringue pie, hopefully that big hug and kiss that's come from such an authentic place will help them understand that that was not a rejection of them. God, there's so much more I could talk about this when it comes to feeders and our relationship with food in the context of others and why people do what they do, let alone why we do what we do. It's a fascinating topic, and particularly with food. And I'd love to encourage you to pop your questions, any questions you have about this, in the comments. And I'll do my best to get back to you in the comments or to record another video around this. If you've got value from that, and if you're planning to use these skills that I've taught today, please smash the like button and maybe share it with somebody who needs to hear this. Maybe you've got somebody else who's really struggling with the feeder in the family, and they need some skills that they can use this weekend to protect themselves against that. All right, lovelies, have a beautiful week ahead, a wonderful Easter or whatever it is that you're celebrating around the world. May it be filled with love and connection and the bare minimum amount of antagonistic feeding moments. That's it. I'll see you next Monday. We're going to be talking about what to do when you've overindulged, as many of us will this weekend. And what to do in the 24 to 48 hours afterwards to ensure that little bit of overindulgence doesn't turn into a massive blowout which lasts a week or a month long. Let's get you back on track, feeling good in your bodies as fast as possible after a period of overindulgence. Wonderful, everybody. Happy Easter. Have a beautiful week ahead, and I'll catch you next Monday at Live at Lunch.